everyone. Welcome back to another session for the Global Masterclass. I'm thrilled to be back with Kelly again, and we're going to be talking about heat press basics. So a really, really important one for every single person watching today. We're going to talk all about the different heat press types, the different garments and decoration application you can achieve, all the way through to, the different accessories, the payoff of the press. There's so much that we're going to cover today, whether you're getting your first heat press or you're looking to upgrade or add a second heat press to your fleet of presses. We're going to cover everything. And between us, we've got an Auto Open, a Fusion IQ, a 360, and a Dual. I did that the wrong way around, and a Dual. It's the wrong way behind me. So yeah, super excited about this talk today. So we're going to do a presentation first, and we're going to run you through all of our slides, and then Kelly and I are both going to do some application work on all of the presses afterwards. So we'll run you through all the different features, all of the technology that Hotronics heat presses offer, and then we're going to physically show it to you in action. So if we can have our presentation, please. So I believe we have some polls for this session, actually. So let's run through those. Do we have polls for this one? No, that's okay. We'll get started on the presentation first. So let's go with heat press basics. So Kelly, do you want to kick off and talk a little bit about Hotronics presses?
Yes, I'm happy to. So the one thing that I love about our brand is that it does not matter if you are going with the Max or if you are going with the Dual Air Fusion. The heating element is the same in all presses. So if you are on a budget and you're trying to make the most sense of which one, so you can capitalize on the quickest ROI, you're not compromising the bread and butter of what you need to do your business. And I think that's extremely important, because as we go through really the heat press basics and understanding the heat press and the accessories that you need and how to apply, you need the heating element to perform for you day and night. If you're going 24/7 on one particular job, you need that heating element to continue to work like a workhorse. And if you are doing this as a side hustle and you need to be able to turn it on and know it's going to work once a week, then that's one thing that I think is extremely important. So as you can see, we have a lineup here. We've got more than just 4 presses, but these are the core 4 that we're going to really talk about. You've got the Max Clam that is going to be extremely similar to the Auto Open. The biggest difference is you're going to get a pressure readout on the Auto Open, and the Auto Open is yet a clam, but it's also going to automatically spring open, and it's kind of the press that I like to call like a set it forget it. So if you're a multitasker, you're doing multiple things, when that timer dings, it's going to spring open, and you're not going to have to worry about really continuing to overheat and just destroy those fibers of the garment.
I love that. I love that way of putting it as well. Set it, forget it. I haven't heard that before. That is the perfect way of just somebody, if you do close it and you go, oh, I completely forget. I did it the other day. I was using Fusion IQ to print these t-shirts actually. And I went to cut the next one out and it didn't automatically open. And I was like, what do I do? I actually need to open it.
I know. It is like I run off of squirrel brain. I'm working on multiple things at any given time. So if I'm, creating something, then I have ultimate confidence, when I'm using the Auto Clam in my office, that it's going to do what it needs to do. Now, time, temperature, and pressure is the recipe for what we are going to be doing with any transfer. So most of the time, the temperature, your application instructions, they don't change with the garment. They change with the transfer due to the adhesive. Sometimes that can fluctuate. Just know that's going to be the basis of some of the things that we're going to be talking about. Then you get into the IQ series. And anytime you hear IQ, automatically associate that with a brain that's inside of the press. And what I mean by that is there's settings, there's reports that you can run, there's auto on and off features. There's really so much that you can do with a brain to really help you stay moving in terms of production. Same thing with training employees. And of course, the granddaddy of them all is the Dual Air Fusion IQ, which you're going to get that brain, you're going to get that automatic, And then of course you're going to get 2 platens with 1 head and really just be able to put out 30 to 40% more output. So we'll get more, more into these. There's a lot to go over. And like Molly said, we are going to be utilizing 4 presses today. So you will actually get to see, the Granddaddy, the Fusion, Auto Clam all in action.
Okay, so moving on to Hotronics Innovation. Now, one of the main reasons that I love working with Hotronics, I just lent on the slide, apologies everyone. One of the main reasons I love working with Hotronics presses is because there are so many things that they give you that other presses don't, that allow you to print not only more garments in a wider variety, but also it gives you so much more in terms of efficiency. Oh, right, thank you, sorry. In terms of efficiency and, just things you can swap out like the platens, and we'll cover all of that. So we're going to go over all of the innovative features that Hotronics presses offer you, starting with the time, temperature and pressure. Now, as Kelly mentioned, this is the holy trinity of heat printing. Those of you that have been printing for a while will, or should, if you don't, there's a slight problem, and I'm glad you're here, about time, temperature and pressure, the 3 main things you need to be able to heat press a garment or an accessory correctly. So when it comes to knowing exactly what these are and controlling these numbers, Hotronics presses give it all to you. So whether it's accurate temperature, so you can set the temperature, and the Hotronics heating element that Kelly was talking about sets the entire platen within the degree. So there's no fear that a certain part of the platen will be slightly cooler than the other and the transfer might not adhere properly all over the platen. And it is just 100% consistent. So you can be confident that when you pull that platen down, you're getting that consistent heat across the entire platen, and it's the right temperature to unlock the adhesive on the back of whatever decoration method you're using. And then we go on to the timers. So presses like the Auto Open, for example, have the dual timers, which allow for your pre-press and your main press. And we're going to cover pre-pressing in another slide shortly. But being able to accurately measure the time that you're printing for really allows you to just make the most of your heat transfer. So we've seen it where people are using handheld presses and they're sort of counting in their head up to 10 or 12 or whatever the timer may be, and you're not entirely sure that that's the accurate number that you should be holding it down. It's not consistent throughout every single press that you do. So that's why the timers are great. And like you say, if it auto opens, that's even better. And then we have pressure. Do you want to take pressure, Kelly? I'm very aware that I've been rabbiting through this.
No, you're doing great. I think the biggest thing about pressure is, if you are used to working with Stahls products, it's the TTP, it's the time, temperature, pressure right there as the main title on, this particular page. And that as a whole is your recipe. So I always break it down in cake form. If you're baking a cake, you're not going to go willy-nilly on the amount of eggs or oil or amount of water. Everything's going to have its particular reason for why you're using it. So when it comes to pressure, there are many, many people in our industry that will overuse pressure. And when you're doing that, you have to look at it not from just a transfer and thinking that you're really fusing, which I love that's the word that Molly uses. I'm going to start saying fusing more and more.
What do you say?
Heat applying?
Oh, okay, yeah.
I don't know. I never really paid attention to it. I'm like, fusing. I love it. So like when you are really, really fusing that down and you're over pressuring, you're killing the fibers of, that material. You're killing those delicate fibers like rayon, viscose. You don't want to have too much to where you are seeing that scorching. The other side of that is there is something to be said about over pressure and having adhesive kind of like ooze out on the side, and then you'll almost have this like gloss effect on your transfer. So just because you think it's better, it's making it, it's really cooking it, are you gonna over bake a cake? No, you're going to keep it to where it's nice and tasty. You're not going to fry it out. So just think about that. As you can see in that upper right hand for our clams and our fusion, as well as the 360, which you guys can't see right now, this is where we're adjusting the pressure. So it is centralized over the heating element versus towards the back or towards the front, really pushing the center of the heating element down versus, outside of where it needs to be.
Another thing to mention on overpressuring, Kelly, as well, is if you do overpressure your press, even by like 2 to 3 points on a Hotronics, over time, it might not happen straight away, but over time you'll damage your heat press as well. Like if you're constantly overpressuring it, it might start to buckle in the middle, and then you're unnecessarily damaging your press when you don't need to, right? Which kind of leads into Caroline's message. How do you know if you have too much pressure? One of the main things that I love about the Hotronics machines is that from the auto open upwards, you get the pressure readout. So it physically tells you what pressure number that you are fusing at, and if you need to adjust it, whether that be because you've changed the bottom platen or because you're fusing a thicker garment, anything like that, you can change it. And also, I mean, let me know your thoughts on this, Kelly, but you can feel it, can't you? Like presses shouldn't be difficult to use. If it's overpressured, it's hard to close it. Like it shouldn't feel that difficult.
Yeah, and I think that's another thing that's a little tricky, is there's not the end all be all in terms of, oh, this is too much pressure, because my strength is going to be different than Molly's, which is going to be different than Andy's, which is going to be different than Dave's. So if I am really struggling to get a press down, it might be completely different for, Dave, who's going to be using the same press, and it's just going to be, a little bit feel, right? But I think at the end of the day, if you are noticing that you're getting hard press lines, not scorching, but lines, there's something to definitely take into consideration, because this is a giant iron. So the more pressure you have, the more you're going to get those crisp, platen lines. Just something to think about.
Yeah, and if you're having, I mean, on all of the presses, this is true, but especially with the Max, if it doesn't have the pressure readout, you should be able to pull the press down with 2 fingers and have it feel relatively easy to close. And that's kind of how you know you're at a medium pressure with all of the presses, whether or not you have a pressure readout. We have a question from Mary, who wants to know, is there different pressures for different materials?
Yes.
I'm sure Kelly has a lot more of an opinion on this than I do, because you do a lot more testing. But my personal opinion would be, majority of the things that we fuse, whether it be transfers or vinyl, tend to go down at medium pressure unless you're fusing onto more of a sensitive garment. So if you're fusing onto, for example, polyester or something with a fleece, or Sherpa even, which is my new favorite thing. I need to try that after seeing Jenna's video. That's when I would suggest lightening the pressure ever so slightly, especially if you've got the underheat to help that, which is something we can go into in more detail later. But that would probably be, my response. What are your thoughts, Kelly?
Exactly. Most is going to be a medium pressure. And for those of you that are like, what is that? What does that mean? What does that mean on a Hotronics press? That center graphic on this slide that says 320, there's a 5 there, and 4, 5, and 6 is going to read at a medium pressure. 1, 2, 3 is light. 7, 8, 9 is going to be heavy. So if you're using Ultra Weed, Ultra Color Max, a sublimated twill, we could go down the line, right? That's all going to be in a medium pressure. But when you start using those dimensional products like soft foam, that needs to be at a light pressure, so you're not crushing that dimension. So it is important to pay attention to the pressure readout, just so you aren't over applying or possibly changing the characteristic of the material.
Amazing. Anything else to add on this slide, or should we move on?
No, I think we're great.
Cool. Okay, pre-pressing this is one of my favorite tips that I'm going to give everyone. And when we talk about pre-pressing, essentially what this means is hitting your garment or accessory for anywhere from 3 to 5 seconds before you apply any form of decoration. So if that's just a transfer on a t-shirt, you want to make sure that you're pressing the t-shirt for a short amount of time to remove any creases that might be in the t-shirt. So you want to make sure it's a completely flat surface before your decoration goes on, because you don't want to fuse it over a crease. If your garments have been stored by your supplier, chances are they might have been outside or in a damp environment. So the pre-press just allows you to remove any of that moisture, so that, again, the transfer or the vinyl, whatever it is you're using, has the perfect base to go onto, basically. And one of the key tips I tend to give people is always have a test. I have a couple of old ones here, either like a t-shirt or a sweatshirt, whatever it is you're fusing onto, just like a spare or an old one lying around, so that you can physically test the pressure of your heat press before you put your actual customer's garment under there, because you don't want it to be on like an overpressure and then you accidentally scorch the garment and then you're one garment down, if you can pre-press it beforehand and just test it, then that helps a lot. But there are lots of different ways that you can achieve accurate pressure. Kelly, do you want to talk a bit more about the accessories that we discussed on this?
Yeah. So, and I know that in our panel Q&A discussion, like cover sheets, right? Like that was one of the topics. And I was actually looking for a flexible application pad here, but I'm not seeing one. However, I do have, do you guys have one? I've got craft paper.
It's under the Fusion, the Great Flex pad. Yeah, we have, I can show you, we've got one here.
So when you are adjusting your cover sheet, whether it is the flexible application pad like Molly has, or craft paper, craft sheet, there's a couple of different types out there. I mean, everybody kind of has their own little name. But if I'm using a craft paper and then switch to a flexible application pad, that's going to add some thickness right above the garment. So when that heating element comes down, we need to make sure that that doesn't completely adjust the pressure. It may take us from a 4 to a 5, but we want to make sure we don't go from, say, something like a 5 to a 7. And now we're in that high pressure and we don't need to be. In terms of threadability, so another great question. You guys have been awesome about asking questions in each class that kind of tie into the next class or something that was talked about earlier. And this garment was mentioned previously in our global trends class, because we've got quilted, we've got seams, we've got stitching, we've got Sherpa, and then we also have these buttons. So how in the world are we going to, press this on a 16 by 20? Well, right there in that picture there's pillows, right? So what does a pillow do? It's wrapped in Teflon, and it's like this. So those buttons would go into the pillow, elevating the area around it. So the heating element is touching the area that it needs to, not the embellishments that could potentially melt or damage your heating element. So there's different sizes. It's really one of those things that pillows can work with a variety of things. It's not like you have to have a 4x6. It's not like you have to have a leg and sleeve. These have so much versatility for a variety of accessories that if you don't think you're ever going to use a 16 by 20 pillow, then just roll with an 11 by 15. And the cool thing about Hotronics is we have interchangeable platens, and we have them with a latch that makes it super, super easy. I'm on a stool, so bear with me as I adjust. So when our platen rolls out right here, this pin is what goes in. So I don't have to use screws. I don't have to get tools out to make a quick adjustment that I need from project to project, or even from garment to garment. So if I wanted to go from that tag along to a 4x4, I can do it within seconds. And all of these allow for you to elevate that surface area that you need to make sure is getting accurate pressure.
Yeah, as and when you do that as well, it's important to note that you do check your pressure again before fusing, because when you change the surface area of the platen that's underneath the heat plate, your pressure will change as well. So you just want to make sure that you're testing that before you put the actual garment and transfer underneath. Before we jump into the question, I'm just going to pop a couple of polls into the chat. One of them is, do you own a heat press, and how many do you own in your business? And then the other one is, do you pre-press? So we're keen to know how many of you have already got the very good best practice habit of pre-pressing, and how many of you it's the first time you've heard it today? Should we move on to the next slide? Oh, we have a question. Kelly, do you want to take this one because you've got the craft paper?
Yeah, so it says, what's the difference, Kathy, my girl, what's the difference in brown craft paper that Stahls sells and the white paper that comes with ultracolor transfers? Are they the same, or are they different transfers? So they're different types of paper. Whether you are most of the time, it's something that you can feel in terms of consistency. I don't have I don't know the chemical makeup of what makes them truly different, except for the thin, it's thinner. And then if you look at this one, this kind of has a little smooth coating feel on it, but without getting really deep. Later on, Kathy, I'll make sure that when we have our panel that we'll see if Dave Connor can talk to that just a little bit more.
Cool. And we have another question, which is it safe to use something like parchment paper on top to prevent the design from sticking to the heat press? I mean, parchment paper is pretty much very similar to what you call craft paper and what we call release paper, right? So I don't see why not. I mean, release paper is not particularly expensive to buy anyway. Like, I think it's around like £5 or £6 ish for like a pack of 50 A3. So, and you will use one piece over and over again. So it's really not an expensive thing to add to your business. But I'm sure you could make do with whatever you sort of have at home as well if you needed to, and if you ran out and you needed to fill a gap.
Absolutely. So parchment paper, craft paper, there is a reusable cover sheet, which really feels like Teflon, which is almost what is wrapped up in these pillows. So like you could wipe this clean. So it really just comes down to, what do you prefer to work with? Do you want to work with the craft paper? Do you want to work with a Teflon sheet? Do you prefer to use, parchment paper? There's many, many options.
Cool. Okay, so moving on to how Hotronics grows with your business. Now, I always say this whenever customers come in and they talk about which press they either bought first or they're looking at getting a Hotronics press as their first heat press. Whether or not they have or haven't, they always end up leaning towards Hotronics because of the capabilities it gives you to print different garments, accessories, products, etc. So one of the main things that we want to talk about with how Hotronics, I've clicked the wrong button, bear with me. How Hotronics grows with your business is you can expand your product offering. So what we were talking about earlier with pressure and what Kelly was explaining is that by using different size and shape patterns, you can isolate different print areas on garments, allowing you to get a perfectly flat placement area and print on different kinds of garments. You could do different print locations. We've got t-shirts, hoodies, hats. You can print near zips. We've got neck labels, which Kelly's got the tag along on there to show you. Bags. There really is, endless possibilities with what you can print with a Hotronics press.
So just to give you an idea, onesies, right? Bags, totes. There's so many uses for a variety of our platens. So we have an underbill platen, which shown right there with the underbills of those caps. And I love to call it a clover press because there's 4 corners to that press. Yes, it was built and designed for the application of decorating underbills of caps, but I look at that as that's 4 locations that I could put a sleeve on. So you can do 4 sleeves at one time. You could do shorts, koozies in those corners. Like it's just one of those ways where if you can get that item on that press and it does what you need to, then run with it. Don't just look at it as it has to stay in that particular category. This is another size, which makes it great for tote bags, those smaller print areas. Same thing for this. We could have slid this over that and then not had to use pillows. And then the conversation of having a smaller youth size tag along platen is because this tag along platen, right, is going to be 16 inches across and you need that smaller shoulder area. So that's where like an 11 by 15 is what's being used at this current time, since we don't have a smaller tag along.
I think this is a really good opportunity as well to ask people to comment below what the weirdest, almost unique thing they've ever heat printed was, because Kelly and I were having this discussion before we came live, and there are some interesting things. So we want to know what the most unique thing you've ever managed to heat print on is in the comments.
Love it.
So moving on to the different types of decoration method that you can print. Kelly, do you want to take this one?
Yeah, so this is one thing that I am obsessed about when it comes to heat printing, because as we talk about screen printing, as we talk about embroidery, sublimation, direct to film, all of those things can actually be utilized by a heat press. You can sit there and take an embroidered patch and heat apply it onto a garment and accessory, and it's going to be durable. It's going to last. So you're still able to provide that timeless, traditional type of method with that embroidery. It's just not puncturing the fibers or the garment. And when it comes to those decoration methods, as a new product is developed, as a new vinyl, specialty transfer is developed, This doesn't change unless you need to change the arch of the heating element in the lower platen. So for a unit that you invest in and a new reflective material comes out, you don't have to go purchase another press as long as your, handy dandy trusty press is going to be able to provide the temperature accurately that you need. There's many presses out there that are going to tell you it's hot or high, and you might be cooking at 375 and not even know it because it's not giving you a temperature readout. So when we look at doing screen print and somebody says, I really want screen printed, or I want a screen printed garment, do you screen print? Yes, you do, because you can order screen printed transfers and do screen print all day long. And then as direct to film evolves, same press, different transfer. Then we get into patches and emblems, which is a whole other element that we're going to talk about, and I will show you how to apply those on the 360. It's super important that you have a press that you can either utilize upper and lower heat, or at least make it upper and lower heat. And going back to the quick change platens, we have a lower heated platen that actually goes in that slot, plugs into a different outlet, and now you have a flat press where you're able to get that upper and lower heat and utilize those patches and emblems all day long.
We've had a few comments so far. So we've got Tanisha says that she mostly, you're going to put them up on the screen. Sorry, guys. So, so Jennifer says full zip hoodie, not the most unusual, but nerve wracking the first few times. Absolutely. And then she followed up with full design across the zipper, of course. So, I mean, yeah, that's something quite difficult to do. You've got to line it up. You've got to make sure you're not on the zipper. You've got to make sure everything's hanging off the press. So absolutely, that's a great one. Do we have any other ones? Journals, boxes, and clothing catalogs branded. That's really cool, actually.
Catalogs. My favorite.
And then I think I saw another one in there. Do we have a third one? Yes, there we go. So Tanisha said backpacks. Cool. She normally just does apparel items. So even that, learning how to, isolate the print area of the backpack, which I know Kelly is going to show you how to do as well. That can be nerve-wracking the first few times you do it, especially figuring out, what you're doing, what pattern to use, what pressure, etc. Awkward backpacks again. Yeah, bottle holders. Yeah, so many unique things out there that you can print on with Hotronics. Amazing. Okay, right, let's skip to the next slide. Kelly, I'll let you take this one again, only because I know that this is one of your favorite topics.
Yeah, so it's the brain. It really is the brain, right? I mean, just what you can do with it is quite remarkable. And one thing I will tell you, if you own an IQ and you've never connected it to Wi-Fi, go do that after, tomorrow morning or at midnight tonight, because there's software in here that needs to be updated, firmware needs to be updated. And there's a lot of people that own a 360 IQ that didn't know a button that automatically pops open the heating element was actually available. And you can only get that by updating your firmware. So I'm just letting everybody know there is a reason why it's called the brain. So you can save recipes. There's a menu option in here, and it's going to come loaded with certain products already on here. But the beautiful thing is, if you're doing rip away applique, if you have a particular time and temperature that you need for sublimation, you can set all of that in here and go click the menu button. And about 3 clicks, your press is going to start changing the temperature. It's going to adjust the time, and it's going to tell you what pressure you need, not automatically adjusted on this one. On our air models, it will automatically adjust the temperature. So again, it falls into that line of less issues, more accuracy, because if you have your favorite setting, you don't need it on the wall. It's going to be right here in this little brain.
So Minnie wants to know how you find the preset recipes on the Fusion IQ. If you take a look at, I think the easiest way to explain it is the picture on the slide. The bottom left-hand corner has almost like a little book, and that is your library of recipes. So if you click that, everything that's preloaded will come up into there, and you can add your own recipes as well, which I'm going to keep referring to it. But for like the Sherpa, for example, if you find that that's a particular temperature that you need the top or the bottom platen on, or a unique time, whether it be 3 to 5 seconds less than normal or more than normal, etc., you can pre-save those recipes so that you can just, every time you do that item, you can just click it and go, yep, done, easy, rather than having to reprogram every time. So
the other thing that I find really important for those that are really wanting to evaluate their business, understand their costs, you know, all of the calculations that Josh went over, it's important to know how much time you spend at the press, how long it takes to do a job, how many times this handle goes up and down, you know, how many presses per minute, per hour. And this press actually tracks all that. So you can run reporting. You can run reporting based on login information if you have multiple employees. You can even see if somebody is maybe moving faster, but they have more errors. What is that doing to your overall cost? Those are things that you're going to have to sit down and really analyze in your business. But at the end of the day, you have the ability to run those reports that, you know, you wouldn't with an auto clam. And then, of course, the interchangeable, you know, that's going to come with all the Fusion IQs except for the 360 because you don't need to change it. But that's the brain. If you're not utilizing it, then think about utilizing it because you might get some benefit to that.
Okay, let's talk about, because I'm conscious that we want to get some fusing in as well, and we're already at 30 minutes in. So I'm going to quickly skim over the payoff pricing, but it's pretty straightforward. So let's take the Fusion IQ, for example, which is the press Kelly has behind her. That is £2,250 UK pricing to purchase one-off. So what we tend to do when it comes to payoff is we always add in to your total buying price a certain amount for accessories, right? Whether that be your release of craft paper that you need to do, whether that be a platen, a quick slip. There's always going to be something like a pillow. There's so many that you want with your press just to make it a bit more versatile. So we've added in 170 pounds or dollars worth of accessory product. Which brings the total cost to just over £2,400. Now, if you're selling a heat press, if you're selling a t-shirt at around £14 profit per item, so if it costs you £6 to make and you sell it at 20, which could be more or less depending on, you know, who you're selling to, how you market your brand, etc. But say, for example, £15 profit per garment, per t-shirt, you would need to sell 172 t-shirts total to pay off that press, which is just 14 t-shirts a month. 14 t-shirts a month is not unachievable if you're going for a press like the Fusion IQ. So that just really breaks it down and shows you how easy and digestible it is to pay off that press, right? Like, I think a lot of people see the initial cost and go, oh no, I'll get the cheaper one. But when you actually break it down, I think it's 2 or 3 more t-shirts per month to get this one versus the one down, right? So it's really not an unaffordable thing. And like you said, it's the bread and butter of your business. This is the one thing that's going to really make you money. So it's worth investing in the one that can help grow your business as it flourishes.
This is one of my favorite slides. I love to break out costs by, you know, orders. I love to see like smaller quantity, smaller or like larger orders, smaller quantity of those orders. So just adjust that to however your brain needs to handle it.
Yeah, it's more digestible, isn't it? So while we're on the topic of which heat press you're purchasing, one of the things I like to talk to people about is sometimes we have people come and visit us here at the Innovation Centre and they come in and they go, I want that heat press. Like, they've seen one online, they think they know what they want. They might say they want the dual air fusion, and we sit down and we go, you don't need the dual air fusion yet. You're not going to utilize it. Maybe look for the Fusion IQ or the Auto Open. But then you also get vice versa. You get people that come in that want maybe like the lower end press that could really do with investing £500-600 more and getting one that's going to grow with them in their business. So having that conversation with somebody here, with someone at Stahls in the US, Belflex, Australia, wherever you are, and with yourself and your employees actually, to what you're going to use your heat press for and what you need it to be able to do for your business. That's how you decide which heat press you go for, and then you look at the payoff from there, rather than seeing the shiny Rolls Royce over here and going, I want that one in the showroom. Don't get me wrong, this is the one to work up to. We all want one of these. But when you're starting out and you're trying to grow your business, you want to make sure you're making the most smart choice for efficiency, really. So just a few questions. So we'll speed through these because I want to get to the fusing, but these are just a couple of examples of what to ask yourself if you are going to be purchasing a press. So for example, do you need dual timers? Then go for either the Auto Open or the Fusion IQ. Do you need your heat press to auto open? Go for the Auto Open or one of the air machines rather than the Fusion IQ because you have to manually open that one. Do you want a clamshell or a swing away? That's a simple one to answer. Do you want your press to pop open or do you want it to physically move and create a nice heat-free workspace? And do you want pressure readout, which my answer would always be yes. Then anything from the Auto Open all the way to the dual air fusion has pressure readout, which is fantastic. Hotronics, that's not a word. Hotronics warranty has a lifetime warranty on the heating element. So we always recommend that whichever heat press you're buying, you always look for a lifetime warranty on the heating element. You want to make sure that, like I said, your press is going to grow with your business. It's going to be by your side the entire time, and that you can trust that, you know, it is going to be that workhorse that you need it to be. Then we have the 5-year on. Oh, sorry, go on, Kelly.
There was a question. I'm just jumping to the bottom of that. There was a question earlier that I saw that's like, what should include in the maintenance of your press? And honestly, look at it as any other electronic. Just because it's in a production facility and not in your home, clean it, wipe her down. You know, don't let that dust build up. There's going to be so many fibers coming from your garment that just make it a habit. Once a week, every Friday, wipe it down, keep it moving on. That way you're not going to have any buildup anywhere that you don't want it to be.
Exactly. So that is everything from the slides. So we're going to move on to the fusing. Can we please remove the, thank you very much. What do you want to start with? Do you want to go straight in auto, dual, 360? What do you want to do?
Let's do clam, since that doesn't have the brain, but it does have the auto open. And then I'll pop in with clam and then swing over to the 360 and finalize with the dual maybe.
Yeah, cool. So this is the Auto Open Clam that we've been talking about. One of the things that I wanted to demonstrate that you couldn't really on the actual presentation was the threadability aspect of this. So when you place your t-shirt onto the press, you don't just want to get 2 layers and go like that, because that way you're going to get, you know, press through from the seams and the collar. You're not going to have a completely flat surface. You want to isolate the area you want to print on. I'm trying to figure out where the camera is. So you want to pull the t-shirt apart and you want to thread it like this onto the heat press. So if you put it like this, you can see that the underneath of my t-shirt hangs completely off the bottom of the press. So you're isolating that print area. Now, this is my spare t-shirt that I told everybody to have so I can test the pressure first. So we're just going to pull it down. It's going to do 3 seconds on a pre-press. And our pressure is on, oh, it's set to 10 seconds. Great, we'll just let it go. And the pressure is on a 6, which is the higher end of medium, but that's fine for what we're doing today. So take off the test t-shirt. Now we know we're not going to ruin the actual garment. We'll take just a plain white t-shirt today. And I'm going to be fusing our Ultra Color Max DTF transfers as well, if anybody wondering. So place that onto the press like so. Now we're going to give it the pre-press that I spoke about. So this is demonstrating the dual timers. So it pops open after 3 seconds, which is great. And then when I go to pull it down again, I don't need to change any of the settings in the press here in order to get it to do the 12-second press that DTF needs. It'll automatically do it for us. So I'm going to put a cover sheet down. So then this one will automatically go to 12 seconds, just like that. So that's why I say having dual timers on your press is really important, because you don't have to flick between time settings in between each one. That would probably take 5 seconds in itself to get every time. And then this is hot heel, we just pull this straight off, like so. Pull it straight off and move on to, it's this side, I need to go over here, to the next. That was so simple, literally 12 seconds. Perfect application. You can see it's got a nice soft finish. Yeah, love DTF. So does anyone have any questions on the Auto Open while we're here that I can answer while we're focusing?
The biggest difference, I don't know if it's hard, right? Like our cameras aren't right in front of the press. So like when I'm getting ready to show you the Fusion, this is going to be touch screen. So everything that I'm adjusting in terms of time, temperature, remember pressure. So this is still by knob. Hers is going to be on a button. So you hit it once, it opens, it turns on all the button or on the lights that you can't really see it. There's a little red faint.
Can we zoom in on that actually? Can you see that?
Light?
That's as far as we can go. You can roughly see if I just button in the middle, it changes from temperature, pre-press, main press, and then the red one here that you can't really see, that's your pressure readout.
So in terms of quick, like that's extremely easy to go bing, 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 and then you can adjust what you need to and then keep operating the press, where this one's very easy as well. But if you're one that's like, okay, I got to hit okay, I got to do this, I got to do that, that's what's going to happen here, where that one is just adjusting and just moving through it.
Just to answer Terry's question on why did I use a cover sheet, because it's just ingrained in my DNA at this point. Because some of our transfers are cold peel, I have been so many times to use a cover sheet. Even if it's hot peel, I still use one because I'm just so used to it. So best practice, you don't want to be caught with a cold peel transfer with no cover sheet.
Your opinion on short 3 seconds, 3-second press after peeling?
No. We've had this conversation so many times. Any transfer that is of decent quality will not need a second press. I've just made a whole YouTube video on this and I get really passionate about it because you are literally wasting like a week of your year pressing a transfer twice that you don't need to press. If you're using a transfer that's of any decent quality, you don't need to pre-press it. The only time that I would potentially recommend it is if it's to achieve a different result, like if you want more of a distressed finish on like foil or like a vinyl, maybe it would need a second press. But from a quality perspective, you just no.
Don't need to.
Don't need to.
Often. Okay. So sorry, Molly, I was hopping in on this one. It's the same thing we were kind of talking about. The majority of transfers are going to apply at a medium pressure. So that's a 4, 5, 6 readout that we're going to see, that we both see. I'll see a 4, 5, or 6. Molly will see a 4, 5, or 6. So the only time you're adjusting your pressure is when your garment or accessory changes and when your transfer is going to change. And I say that because if I'm doing a really plush fleece sweatshirt, it still needs medium pressure, but it's not going to be the same pressure when I put in a tri-blend Bella canvas that's uber thin. So same transfer, but the garment changed. Therefore, we have to make sure our pressure is still, going to get the same type of readout.
And the same with platens as well.
Do they all allow change outs for the different sizes or certain presses? Sorry, I missed that part.
No, all of them. Yeah, no, all of them do. So from the Hotronics Max all the way up to the Dual Air Fusion, all of them have interchangeable platens. So it's just more a case of figuring out which print is going to be your biggest print. Because, for example, if you want to do like a 40 by 50 print, which is our biggest size of Auto Clam, and you went for a smaller press because they come in 3 different sizes, you can't put a bigger platen underneath. You can only print as big as the heating element on the top. So if you're only going to be doing, children's clothes or, something smaller, if you think there's an opportunity you're going to want to do bigger prints, then opt for the bigger press. But that's really the only thing I would say in terms of sizing. All the bottom patterns can be swapped out for smaller. You just can't go bigger.
So if you're really considering, okay, do I need something as big as a 16 by 20? She just said it. This heating element cannot be enlarged, but your lower platen, you can go smaller. So it's always better to have this coverage versus going, I wish I would have gone with a 16 by 20 versus like a 15 by 15.
Which links up with exactly what we were saying about getting the press that's going to help grow your business. Like if you think there's even the slight chance you're going to need that bigger print size, it's worth getting the bigger press just in case, so that you don't need to buy a whole new press if you suddenly decide you want to do bigger garments, right?
So, okay, moving on is the Fusion. So for the most part, everything she went over in terms of threadability, making sure that we're adjusting our pressure, that's it, guys. Like it's that simple. The biggest thing, like I said, is she's got that clam. So she's going to go from basically head level to pulling down, where the Fusion is going to be across your body to pulling down. So if you are trying to figure out, well, which one, I don't really need the brain, or I want the brain, but I don't like the clam style, then that's where you have to really evaluate what's going to work best for you ergonomically, if you have any ailments, and then of course your business. So this has a pull. Okay, so the drawer is going to pull out. My surface is now free of heat. And then there's also a knob right here that I can turn and rotate. I say that. It's not coming out. So right here, I can't get it. This would come out, and then this heating element would swing away like our air fusion. And then that way, this is the heating out, or excuse me, the platen would then be free of any heat. So if you're working with a sweatshirt, it's going to be easier to swing that press away versus pull it out and then watch the sleeves just kind of get caught up in the rail down below. So I'm going to do a direct to film transfer as well. I'm using a Comfort Colors sweatshirt. So we're really kind of hitting on that trend color that we talked about in global trends. And then we are going to have some of that check pattern. I just noticed that there was a mark on this crew neck. So nobody judge. I pulled it out of samples. Now I'm going to show you, if you guys aren't doing this, or if you want to find the center, I always take the print, line it up, and then I just crease the tip. I'm not going to crease the adhesive. I'm not going to crease the print, but now I know exactly where my center is. So when I am on my tag along, it's already got the shoulders pulled out to where it needs to be. I'm just going to run that all the way up, and you can even put a little mark right here at the top to make that your center. So if you struggle with something like that, find an easy way or something that's just going to go, oh, that's where I need to be. Okay, sliding it under. Now this is going to have 1 and 2. So instead of hitting the button to go from press 1 to press 2, all I have to do is go 1 or 2. I did not pre-press, and yes, you should pre-press, but we are running.
You're breaking the rules.
I know, breaking the rules. Nobody's wearing this. Pre-press. Another reason why I'd also want to pre-press on this one is just because it's so thick. So if it has been folded in a certain spot, there's going to be lots of creases, and I just like to have a nice clean area. Same transfer, hot peel. So instead of auto opening, that wonderful is going to go until you move that press back, sliding it forward. And then now this is completely done. So remember, same heating element on both presses. We're not jeopardizing that simply because we went with a different style. We just have functionality on this that we don't on the autoclam. Okay, I'm going to quickly pop over to the 360. I know we're 3 over, so you guys just bear with us.
While Kelly changes her camera around, I just want to quickly touch. If we run out of time, we won't physically use the dual air, but the main difference between that one is obviously the 2 workstations it has, so it doubles your efficiency. And it's air controlled as well. So where we keep talking about changing your pressure, the dual air fusion does all of that for you. You just pop the 2 buttons down at the side, and the air compressor that's attached to it will measure the pressure. So you don't have to keep manually adjusting it, whether you're changing out platens or garments. But we can chat more on that on this specific press if it's something you're interested in.
So do the air products, go for it, Molly.
I was just saying, do the air products collaborate with pressure itself? Yes, basically that's what I just said. That it figures itself out whenever you press it down.
Okay, so this is our 360. You guys can't really see the brain of that right here. I took Molly on a chase with my camera earlier just to try to get the best angle. That way you guys could see us in terms of application. But this right here is the exact same brain that is in the Fusion IQ. Okay, so this is the 360 Fusion IQ. This is going to be your heating element. This is hot. That is hot. Okay, but there is this beautiful thick blue silicone pad on this to where you do not have to change out platen sizes for different types of caps. So we're using a new era cap. It is structured. And what I'm going to do is flip the sweatband and pinch the sides of the bill. Now, because this is hot, and yes, I do touch it because I'm so used to working with heat, but I'm going to go in from the side vertically, and I'm basically going to scoop that back part of the platen. Now there is going to be a lever and a metal piece back here that once I push this down, this little lever down, it's going to lock that hat into place. And one of the things that Josh had talked about was making sure that you just get aggressive with the hat. And I don't know if you guys can see that, but there is a little bit of air. So as that heat is warming up those fibers, I'm just going to make sure that we get that out and everything is nice and smooth in this print area. This is the Flex Style logo that came in the box. So if you're like, what does she have in her hand and how do I get it? You can go and order one of the kits to where you get this logo and you get a bag, sweatshirt, and a t-shirt, and can be fully branded with the Global Masterclass. I'm holding the transfer on there for just a couple of seconds to warm up that heat because it's rigid, right? So you guys can't see this. I could have used thermo tape to tape it down, but because I let that heating element warm up that adhesive, now I don't have to worry about my Flex Style adjusting when I put the pad over it. The cool thing about the 360 is that it comes with everything that you need. So it comes with the pads for the patches and emblems. You don't need additional platens. And because you have that upper and lower heat, you can put whatever on this. So you can do the quarter zips. You can do backpacks. You can do left chest logos, sleeves all day long with those materials that need that lower heat. So when you're considering what press you need, consider this one as an added or supplemental press because you can do so much on it. Lever comes up. Whoa, wrong. I went to the camera. Wrong camera. And then that is complete. Peeling the carrier. And now our hat is fully decorated with our Flex Style, and we could have done the exact same thing on a quarter zip, a bag. This is the bag that came in the kit. The zipper makes it a little bit difficult to embroider and hoop because you can't isolate this area. So the great thing about heat printing is whatever fits on top. So what that means, you open up that bag and set it on top. Now we can brand both a bag and a hat with the exact same logo. I'm coming back.
She's changing cams. Bear with.
Okay, there we go.
Amazing. Okay, yeah, I'm not gonna do the dual just because I'm gonna give everyone a chance to have a little break before the next session. But I think that pretty much concludes our heat press basics. Like I say, if anyone has any further questions, do drop them in the comments box and we'll cover them in the Q&A at the end of today. And if there's anything in specific you want to know about either of the presses that we've used or any you've seen online, reach out to either Stahls in the US or the UK and we can help you with that. And we have exclusive bundles for this event. So if you want to get your hands on these presses with accessories and transfer credit, etc., at a slightly lower price, then these bundles are only available to everyone that's viewing the masterclass today. So they're exclusive to you guys. And yeah, it's a great deal. You can get your heat press in a box, your business in a box, and get started for as soon as tomorrow or the next day, whenever it arrives. So thank you, Kelly, so much for joining me. And we hope you guys love the next session. And yeah, we'll see you in the next one.
Hi, guys.